Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today, we're going to be talking about the latest iteration of the summon pool, specifically the Elven summon pool. So it's a mix of high elves and dark elves, but notably a much smaller pool of champions overall. There are only 4 legendaries that are non-headline. Granted, there are 2 headline champions in this instance, and the epics is a much smaller pool as well, despite it being 2 factions combined. But of course, the main appeal for the summon pool is going to be the headline champions, that being Fina, Blade of Aravia, that being the high elves faction unity champion, and then Ziklik, who's a lot more underwhelming by comparison, but the Dark Elves faction unity champion. I think by now you've probably heard tons of information about Fina and her prowess in Hydra and Chimera, specifically on manual teams, but nonetheless she can enable a lot of damage, especially in a 9-piece protection set. But by contrast, Ziklik, he's not that he's a bad champion, but it's just that the Dark Elves as a faction relative to PvP, which is kind of where his kit seems to be more catered towards, they don't really just have the champions that are up to snuff with the current meta, and so he suffers from the faction problem, less about his kit being the problem. For the rest of the legendaries, we have Wallmaster Atharion, really solid enemy max HP champion, great for Hydra, Chimera, that type of stuff. Strategos Islan, who's kind of okay, is like an annoying tank UDK style, so to speak, in the arena, and he can be a useful like Hydra progression champion as well. Nox the Paralyzer is not a very popular Dark Elf, but nonetheless he is a poison/CC champion, so he can be useful for like poison setup and protection as well, with ally protection from his other abilities. And then lastly, we have Landicus the Chosen, not the most popular ally attack champion, but she does have ally attack combined with buff extension, so she can be useful in certain compositions for that purpose. Then when it comes to the epics, we have a decent mix of good and bad ones. So there's a handful of Lady Mikage epics in here, so Elisanya and Dahlia, to name those 2. We have a couple of good ones. Tyrell is a good, decent debuffer, accessible debuffer for high elves. Royal Guard's a good nuker, enemy max HP. Durandal's a good AoE nuker. Kaiden's a good reviver. Neldor is great as a Fire Knight hard champion, especially if you don't have Creatin or you run them together. And then Gramis, underrated, but a really solid CC champion. Use him in the Cursed City and Faction Wars. And when it comes to the rest of the summon pool, it's pretty par for the course. So you have 40 crystals in order to get 1 shard or summon 1 shard. You have a 6% chance to get a legendary, i.e. this is effectively a sacred shard. 94% chance to get an epic, which, as I always like to point out, means that the most likely outcome from you opening just 1 air quotes free summon is going to be an epic champion. So don't be surprised if you don't get a legendary, because the most likely outcome is getting an epic. Now this event has been live for a couple of days, and we were wondering where we were going to get, if we're going to get a free summon at all, and where it was going to come from. And now we know as of yesterday that it is going to be this tournament here, the High Elves Dragon Tournament. As per usual, I will be doing a dedicated video showcasing the team that I'm going to be using to farm this specific challenge tournament. So stay tuned for that video coming out later today, or depending upon when you're watching this, you might be able to click the card up in the upper right hand corner to jump straight to that video if you're curious about the team I will be using to farm this dungeon. Now in terms of the summon pool itself, this is actually a fairly useless summon pool for me. I do happen to have Fina, even though I don't currently use her on my account, and I have all 4 of the other legendaries and basically all of the epics as well. So the only champion that would be unique on my account would be the Dark Elves faction unity champion Ziklik, who I'm not really that fussed about getting it for the reasons I specified earlier. But nonetheless, I'm a huge fan of challenge tournaments, and there's also a 3x for speed gear going on, so it's just a good time to be farming dragon in general. So I might as well get the free summon just to see what happens. I could get a duplicate of one of these champions, help out faction guardians, or potentially go towards empowerment. And that same logic could apply to the epics as well, get more epics for empowerment. However, of course, that may not be the case for you. You might be missing all or most of these legendaries, so it would still be a good chance for you to shoot your shot, go for the free summon. It's a fairly accessible tournament. It's high elves and dragon. You have a couple of free / accessible champions that can help you build out a pretty solid team, and you don't necessarily have to go into the depths of hard mode to get this tournament complete. There's also not much else to be farming at the moment, and so this would be a good use of your energy, at least in my opinion. So yeah, that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Elven summon pool. I do recommend that you go for this just because it's a good opportunity to shoot your shot and try it and see if you can get one of the headline champions and or one of the legendaries that you may or may not have. But if all else fails, you will still be farming dragon during 3x speed, which means you have a good opportunity to get some decent speed upgrade pieces. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well, if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on the channel, for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.